I can't believe how good I've been the last 2 weeks since she started bringing Sean home, listening to her get the best sex of her life. I hate the feeling I get after this, a lot of guilt and a little shame. I know I have no real reason for these emotions, but they are there. But what really bothers me is why the hell do I like this so much? Before you think I have a cheating wife, no. This is wrong. In fact, this whole situation is rather my fault. It's summer 2011, Buffalo, New York. My name is Dave Thomas, I'm 27 years old, and I'm an investment fund manager. Or at least it was. Let me explain. I'm a 180 centimeters, fit white guy with light brown hair and a decent build, although I wouldn't call myself muscular or strong, just in good shape. I married my longtime girlfriend, Marion, right after graduating from college, and at the time I had just accepted a job at an investment fund management firm here in Buffalo. Marion also graduated from college and a year later got a job as an accountant for a large company in downtown Buffalo. Everything looked great for us. We were enjoying life and each other. After 6 months, we decided to take the plunge and buy a house. This was a huge step for us, especially because we didn't have much money in our accounts. We found a beautiful house on 2 levels in the suburbs and decided to buy it. I say we, but for the most part, it was me who pushed for it. Marion was careful about getting into so much debt so early, especially since we got a loan with no down payment. My famous last words to her were, "Everything will be fine. House prices will rise until the end of 2008 and beyond." Yes, it went wrong. After the financial crisis in mid to late 2008, home prices plummeted as people began to lose their jobs and were unable to make loan payments. I was one of those who lost my well-paying job, and we began to struggle to pay for the house, which now cost much less than the loan we were paying off. I also could not find a job in the financial sector and was forced to take 2 jobs at once. I worked as a courier during the day and on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays as a bartender in order to somehow make ends meet. Luckily, Marion was doing well at work and was even recently promoted. What made it worse was that we couldn't just walk out of the house like so many others, because I didn't take out a higher interest mortgage that included an exit option. Our only option was to sell the house, but then we would still be left owing a ton of money since the house would sell for much less than we paid for it unless we filed for bankruptcy, which was not an option for us. No, we decided to fight to the end because we loved this house and we still needed somewhere to live. But to say that the financial difficulties we found ourselves in due to my miscalculations in the market greatly complicated our relationship is putting it mildly. Nevertheless, we somehow held out until the end of 2009, but by the beginning of 2010 the tension began to take its toll. We often quarreled, and our sex life began to decline. To be honest, the problem was mostly with me. The guilt of putting us in this position, of losing my job and career, made me feel like I was letting my wife down. Not only did we have house payments, but I also had student debts that I was still paying off. Debt from a career where I could no longer find work, at least in Buffalo. I was depressed, felt ashamed, and, like a complete loser, blamed myself, but somehow this manifested itself in the fact that I quarreled with Marion more often. Although, to be honest, my wife was also not completely guiltless in my eyes. Perhaps she should have been more understanding of what I was going through, even if she was going through it with me. I don't know, but we were on the verge of breaking up. The hardest part was that deep down I still loved her and felt that she loved me too. But in our early 20s, neither of us knew how to express it well. In the summer of 2010, we decided to separate because our marriage was no longer working, and we needed time and space from each other. But how exactly could we break up? None of us could afford to move out and still continue to pay off the loan. Moreover, none of us wanted to sell the house and suffer huge losses. Instead, we decided on the only reasonable option. We both stay in the house, but I move downstairs and live in the third bedroom, and Marion stays upstairs in our master bedroom. This option seemed ideal. There was a game room downstairs with a second bathroom and a third bedroom. I converted the large playroom into my living room, while Marion used the regular living room in the main part of the house. Our home actually has 3 levels. The main level has the garage, entryway, kitchen, laundry room, and living room. To the right of the living room on the main level, the house splits into T-shaped staircases up and down as the ground slopes off that side of the house. A half staircase from the main level leads upstairs to the master bath, second bedroom, and master bedroom, which opens to a balcony overlooking the backyard. Another half staircase leads down to a second bathroom, playroom, and third bedroom, which opens onto a small covered patio below the balcony. So now my bedroom is directly below the bedroom I once shared with my wife. Marion uses the car to go to work, and I use the buses. I didn't want her waiting for the bus late at night in the city or walking home alone in the dark. We often ran into each other in the kitchen in the morning or after work, making coffee or food. We seemed to get along better once we took bedroom sharing and sex and forced intimacy out of the equation. I know it sounds strange, but we fight much less now. I dare say we are even happier now as good friends than as husband and wife. When we both agreed to separate, I mentioned that our situation might be problematic if either of us started dating someone new. This slightly stunned Marion. I don't think she thought about the fact that either of us could be with someone else, just that we needed a break from each other. However, she agreed that if this happens, we will have to be careful. That we wouldn't often leave other people overnight, and we certainly wouldn't let them live in the house. That we will consider each other's feelings. I think both of us were still hopeful that there was a chance to be husband and wife again, and we didn't want to do anything that would hurt that in the long run. I was the first to bring someone home about 3 months after we separated. At this point, it had been over 6 months since Marion and I had had sex, and I was desperate for release. One of the benefits of being a bartender is that you become a desirable option for women who want someone for one night. Her name was Cynthia, I think, or Sylvia. Anyway, I brought her home after my shift on Friday night at 3 o'clock in the morning. The sex was pretty mediocre. She was a little too drunk, and I was a little too tired. I sent her home in a taxi before Marion woke up in the morning. About a month later, I brought home another girl named Tasha, whom I also met at the bar. She was a real spark, and I enjoyed sex with her much more than with the previous girl. She was also noisy in bed. At first, I tried to get her to be quiet so as not to disturb my wife, who was sleeping upstairs. But when it all started, I quickly forgot about Marion enjoying sex with Tasha. The next day, while talking to Marion in the kitchen, she said nothing about how noisy we were and acted as if nothing had happened. I thought maybe she was just pretending that she didn't care that I was enjoying sex with another woman. Tasha came back a few more times for repeats over the next 2 months, but then she stopped showing up at the bar and we lost touch. At Christmas, I met another woman named Beverly Tate. She's a year younger than Marion, she's 24, and she just started working as a waitress at the bar where I worked. She, like me, was struggling to pay off her student debts and, like me, couldn't find a job in her field. In many ways, Beverly reminded me of Marion. They even looked alike. Both are about the same height, about 165 centimeters, with light brown hair and brown eyes. Beverly was a little thinner because she ran a lot and had a nice butt and cute B-cup breasts. Marion was still in good shape, but not as thin as Beverly and more toned. Marion also had large breasts, full C-cups, and a slightly rounder butt that I thought looked great. I also thought Marion's face was a little prettier, but no one could deny the similarities in their appearance. Unlike other women, I didn't bring Beverly home on our first date. Instead, we went out to dinner and a movie one Tuesday when we both didn't have work. I really enjoyed talking to her, and for the next 3 months, we met at least twice a week and usually ended the night at her place. Beverly didn't really like coming to my house. The thought of having sex with a guy while his wife was asleep upstairs did not appeal to her, and she did not often agree to it. I could see that my relationship with Beverly had gradually become more serious over these 3 months, and she would soon want more. The problem was that I still had a house loan and student debt to pay off, and I couldn't afford to move in with her, and she knew it. Beverly soon came to the conclusion that we were not destined to be together, while I was still living with my wife and financially tied to her. She ended our relationship at the end of March. I felt depressed again, but not as much as after losing my career and being disappointed in my wife. This time I knew I could handle it. It would just take a few weeks to get over it. As for Marion, as far as I could tell, she hadn't slept with anyone since we separated over 10 months ago. She didn't go out often either, except to meet up with friends sometimes, but more often than not she invited them to her house for dinner or to watch a movie. Her only outlet was the gym, where she went several times a week after work. I didn't know how my relationships with Tasha and then Beverly affected her, if at all. If something bothered her, she tried not to show it. As the weather warmed up again, I found solace in occasional late-night encounters with women from the bar, although these were now mostly one-off hookups. Working as a courier also began to tire me. I didn't like it and was poorly paid for the amount of time I spent on it. I continued to submit my resume to financial companies, but the more time passed, the less chance I had of finding something in my specialty. With the arrival of summer, Marion finally decided to stop staying on the sidelines and enter the field of play. Her choice was the co-owner of the gym, a 32-year-old handsome black man named Sean Johnson. I didn't even know that Marion was attracted to black guys, but I'm clearly in no position to tell her who to date after bringing home a lot of women myself over the last year. I think seeing my wife with someone else, especially a physically more attractive man, was a bit of a shock, to be honest. I don't know if I expected Marion to remain celibate while I was having fun, but those days are clearly gone. Now it's her turn to have fun, and I'll have to deal with it. The first time I saw Marion and Sean, they were sitting in the living room watching TV when I got home from work. Nothing particularly romantic happened between them. I said hi to them and went downstairs to take a shower. I wasn't working at the bar that night since it was Wednesday, and after my shower I relaxed in my living room watching the show. About an hour later, I heard them talking at the front door before Sean left and Marion went upstairs. On Friday, when I returned home, he was with us again. I quickly showered and went to work at the bar, so I didn't know if he stayed the night or how romantic their relationship had become. When I returned home at almost 5 in the morning, the house was dark and quiet, and his car was not in front of the house. I didn't think much of it until I saw him again on Sunday night. 3 times in a week, something clearly happened between them. Marion and Sean were upstairs preparing dinner while I lounged on the sofa downstairs. I was exhausted after working until 5 am on Friday and Saturday, and then spending most of Sunday afternoon drinking with my best friend Gary. When I woke up, my TV had already turned off, the house was quiet, and there were no sounds coming from above. I looked at the phone. It was almost 11 in the evening. I slept well. Moving, I turned off the light and walked through my bedroom onto the small tiled patio where there was a chair. There was a light breeze, and it was a perfect night for sitting outside. That's when I first heard them. It took me a minute to collect my thoughts. I knew this day would come, but I didn't think I would hear it when it did. I felt a little guilty just listening to them, even though I had no intention of doing so when I went outside. Was I angry? Did I feel regret? Guilt? Or maybe I was glad that she had finally moved on? No, I didn't feel any of that. I was rather confused. This confusion gradually grew into a slight feeling of bewilderment. After all, she is still my wife. Should I be okay with her having sex with another man? But I've been doing it myself for most of the last year since we've been separated, and I'm sure she must have heard me having sex with one of the women I brought home. No, if I don't want to hear her having sex, I can go inside and close the door. But I didn't do it. Instead, I sat back and continued listening, and that's when I realized something that truly surprised me. I found listening to my wife having sex with another man enjoyable. The feeling of shame was getting closer and closer. But why should I be ashamed? We had been separated for almost a year, although we had no plans to get a divorce. And according to the documents, we were still happily married because we didn't even make our separation official. Plus the number of women I've slept with in the last year. Who am I to blame Marion for finally enjoying life? She always sounded sexy to me when we made love, But lying on the bed and just listening to her while she had sex was a whole different dimension. The strangest thought came to me. I want her right now more than ever in a long time. I tried to throw this thought out of my head as something absurd, but nevertheless, it was with me. Early Monday morning, I got up, took a shower, and went to the kitchen to drink coffee before work. I noticed Sean's car wasn't parked in front of the house, so he must have left after they finished. Halfway through preparing the coffee, I heard Mariana happily go downstairs and enter the kitchen. "Good morning, Muzzy. You're in a good mood today," I said. Muzzy was the nickname I gave Marian in college. "Good morning, Dave." "Yes, the weather is fine," she replied. "So it's just a matter of weather?" I asked with a smile. "Well, that and more," she answered, also smiling. I continued to smile while sipping my coffee. "Hey, Dave, I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but I may have an opening in finance at work soon, and that would be a great opportunity for you. I can try to at least invite you to an interview if you want," said Marian. "Yes, sure. This courier job sucks, and it pays the same. I need to get back into the financial sector, or my degree will be useless. Let me know how it's going or what I need to do," I replied. "Certainly. As I said, there is no vacancy yet. One of the senior managers is retiring, and Kara, a woman in the position they might offer you, will most likely be promoted. So everything should be resolved over the next couple of weeks." "Okay, I think I can hold out for a couple more weeks," I said with a smile. Then I thought about how some companies don't allow spouses to work together. Maybe this will become a problem. "It doesn't matter that we're married, well, for work?" I asked. "No, it shouldn't. My boss and his wife also work together, although not directly with each other, and you and I won't either. Your work will be in another department. Besides, your boss will most likely be Kara, my good friend. You've met her before. She's been to our house for dinner a few times. We are all confident that she will get a promotion. Besides, she already knows about our separation and understands our situation," Mariana answered. "Great," I said, finishing my coffee. I soon went to my shift as a courier, happy that I might soon be able to get rid of this job. I began to hope that Marian could really help me with this. On Wednesday evening, Sean was with us again, and I listened again. I began to worry that I was enjoying it too much, that I was even waiting for this moment, although I have a hard time admitting it to myself. I hate the feeling I have after that, a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. I know there is no real reason to feel these emotions, but they are there. What bothers me is, why the hell do I like this so much? I realize that if I listened to some other attractive couple having sex, it might be interesting, but it certainly wouldn't excite me the way the sound of my wife with her lover does. The thing is, it's because it's my wife, Marian, that makes everything so special. After all, this is the woman for whom I, deep down, still have feelings, even if we are now separated. I still find her incredibly attractive, not only in appearance, but also in her character, her manners. After all, there was a reason why I was so happy to marry her. I wanted to spend my whole life with her. But what if she wants a serious relationship with Sean, like Beverly wanted with me? What then? Would she be willing to sell the house to be with him? Will I really lose her completely? For the first time, I really thought about losing Marian. Even during our separation, she always remained somewhere nearby, as a plan B option if I needed it. I felt bad for taking her for granted over the past year, and now there was a real possibility that she might want to leave for good. On Tuesday morning, Marian told me good news. I had an interview for an account manager position at her company in the city. The interview is scheduled for Friday afternoon, so I'll have to finish my courier job early to get ready. The interview was conducted by her friend Kara Jackson, who got promoted a week ago. If I didn't know better, I would have said that Kara asked me easy questions, almost suggesting the right answers. When I left, I felt that everything had gone well and hoped that my career would soon take off again. Later that day, as I was getting ready for my bartending shift, Kara called me to offer me the job. I could start as early as Monday if I'm ready. I happily accepted her offer and immediately called my boss at the courier company to submit my resignation. Things were finally starting to look up, thanks in large part to my wife Marion. On Sunday evening, I listened again. It's hard to realize that you are no longer the best lover your own wife has ever had or even close. But we are no longer together, so it's not difficult for me to push these thoughts out of my head. I have a new job ahead, new people, new responsibilities, step by step. On Monday morning, I went to work with Marion. One of the advantages of the new job was that now we could go to work together. I spent the morning with Kara, who explained my tasks to me, introduced me to my colleagues, and explained my expectations. While chatting with Kara over a cup of coffee, I realized that she is a very attractive and confident woman. She is the same age as me, 27 years old, about 173 centimeters tall, with a toned figure and large breasts. During the conversation, I learned that her father was black and her mother was white, which gave her a beautiful caramel skin tone that perfectly matched her beautiful face and large green eyes. The main thing I took away from talking to Kara was that she is very smart and competent, which definitely helps her exude confidence. I'll have to be on top if I want to impress her in a professional sense, of course. On her finger was a huge diamond engagement ring. I'm sure her husband is as attractive, confident, and successful as she is. She exuded the aura of one of those successful and beautiful women who achieve everything in life. At the end of the day, I was happy with the opportunity. Everyone on the staff was friendly, and the job was a perfect fit for me. One of the other benefits was that I could now think about quitting bartending soon, although for now I was happy to continue. It was the best way to meet potential partners. I didn't have the money to go to clubs and bars trying to meet women, and working as a bartender gave me the opportunity to get paid to serve drinks and sometimes sleep with clients. This was a definite advantage. Marion continued to see Sean on Wednesdays and Sundays, and I still enjoyed hearing them have sex. At some point, I need to stop. I need to find a girl again to satisfy my sexual needs. Toward the end of our second week at our new jobs, our team decided to leave work early on Friday and head to a nearby bar to bond the team, as Kara put it. There was only one guy on our team, Kevin, and three women, Rachel, Simone, and Tessa. Kara paid for the first round of drinks, thanking us for helping her transition to her new position. By the second round, I asked Kara to bring me mineral water since I had to work at the bar in a couple of hours. It was during this round that Rachel decided to ask me some personal questions to get to know her new colleague better. "So, Dave," she began, "are you lonely, married? Is there someone special in your life?" Before I could respond, Kara decided to tell the others about my situation with Marion herself. "You all know Marion, right? The very attractive Marion Thomas from accounting. So, Dave and Marion are married," Kara said. But I thought, oh, sorry. Simone started to say something but quickly stopped, clearly embarrassed by what Kara had just said. "Simone, you probably meant to say that you thought Marion was dating Sean Johnson, the handsome owner of the gym that many of us go to nearby. Yes, you're right. She really is dating him. Dave and Marion have an agreement. You don't mind her dating such an attractive man, do you, Dave?" Kara replied, although her wording didn't sound exactly like what I would have said. "Well, yes. I also date other women. We unofficially separated about a year ago," I replied to the group. "But you are still married and living together, right? I saw you coming to work together every morning," Tessa asked with a hint of bewilderment. "Yes, that's true. We both live in the house we bought. We are stuck with his payments, so we still live together. But of course, we have separate rooms," I answered. "But it doesn't bother you that she's bringing Sean home? It's probably not easy," Simone continued. "No easier than when I brought other women home and Marion was here. I work at a bar most nights to make ends meet," I replied. "But you're not dating anyone right now, right? And your wife dates another guy, brings him home, and has sex with him," Rachel intervened. It was clear that the women were having a hard time understanding our situation. They couldn't comprehend that we were still married and my wife was dating another man and bringing him to the same house where we both lived. "No, I'm not dating anyone right now. Look, when we sort out the money and house prices recover a little, Maybe we'll sell the house and go our separate ways for good. For now, yeah, it's a bit of a weird situation, I agree, I suggested, hoping they would stop this conversation. There was an awkward silence as I could see they were all trying to make sense of what they had just heard. I decided to change the subject and ask them the same thing if they were married and if there was anyone special. Tessa answered first. I have been married for 4 years to my husband Mark. We have a 2-year-old daughter named Lisa, and we will also have a second child soon, although I'm not showing it yet, Tessa said with a smile. Tessa is a fairly attractive blonde, about 25-30 years old. I'm engaged to a handsome man named Derek. The wedding is in 3 months, Rachel said next. Rachel has long brown hair, fair skin, and blue-gray eyes. She is approximately 24 years old and quite attractive, with a cheerleader figure. My husband's name is Javon. We have 2 beautiful boys, Michael. He is 6 years old, and Trey, he is 4. We've been married too long, Simone replied with a laugh. Simone is an attractive black woman in her early 30s, and despite having 2 children, she appears to be in great shape. I'm married to Tyrell. He runs an insurance company here in Buffalo. We've been married for 3 years, but have been together for 6 since we were in college. We don't have children yet, but we want to have them soon, Kara answered. I looked at Kevin. He seemed pretty withdrawn and hadn't said much since we got here. Oh, I'm single. Single forever, apparently, Kevin said with self-irony. He appears to be about 25 years old, approximately 175 centimeters tall, with brown hair. I wouldn't say he's fit or handsome, just an average white guy with an average build. Don't worry, Kevin. I'm sure there is your soulmate somewhere. Maybe you should go to crowded places a little more often, go to clubs or church if that's your thing. Or try one of these dating apps, Tessa advised him, which made Kevin laugh a little. I've been on several dating sites for 3 years now, but during this time I've never even gotten on one date. Women don't need awkward white guys like me. I don't have the beauty, the muscles, or the money they all seem to want, Kevin replied. Not all women are like that. Some of us just need a good person to love us, Simone said. You all say this, but how did you even become interested in your husbands and boyfriends? I've met all your husbands, they're all tall, handsome, and muscular, Kevin countered, and the women looked at him sympathetically, understanding where he was getting this from. Rachel, your fiancé played football in college and is now a junior lawyer. Tessa's husband is a tough firefighter. Simone's husband played basketball in college and then began a career in banking. And Kara, your husband spent 3 years in the NFL before he was forced to retire and is now a successful businessman. How can I compete with these guys? Women don't want to date people like me. They want people like your husbands or Sean from the gym, Kevin blurted out. Oh, come on, Kevin. You don't have to drag Sean in at the end. Take care of poor Dave, Rachel laughed. Besides, it doesn't mean you or Dave can't find someone. You just need to adjust your expectations correctly, Tessa added. Hey, I don't need to be included in this. I'm doing pretty well on my own, thank you very much, I said, also chuckling. Yes, I'm sure of it, Dave. Okay, who wants another drink? It's rare that I'm in this mood to pay for everyone, so don't miss the moment, Kara replied. We continued talking, mostly about work, after which I left to start my second shift. I'll admit, I was a little annoyed by a conversation I had earlier with my colleagues. Their main idea was that my wife was sleeping with a more attractive black man, and I was in the role of some beta who was forced to watch the alpha take my wife right in front of my eyes. While that's clearly not what's really going on, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was how my colleagues saw my relationship with Marion and her affair with Sean. On Sunday night, I decided to stay over at my friend Gary's instead of going home so I wouldn't have to hear my wife having the best sex of her life again. Gary lives with his wife Sonia, who was also at home. She works with me at the bar as a manager, and she was the one who hired me there. What annoyed me was when Sonia revealed that Beverly had recently moved in with her new boyfriend. We broke up without any hard feelings, but the fact that she was already living with someone else irritated me more than it should have. Beverly didn't say anything about her new boyfriend at work, although, in principle, she doesn't have to give me an explanation. Maybe it annoys me because I feel like a third wheel in my own home, and Beverly broke up with me because of my agreement with my wife. Add to that the fact that I spend too many nights at home listening to my wife having sex with someone else. Yes, I may think it's incredibly sexy when I listen to it, but I need to do something about it. On Wednesday evening, I decided to do something again, so I wouldn't be at home listening to Marion having sex again. I went to the cinema alone and suffered through a boring movie, and then returned home around 11 in the evening. I was hoping they would be finished by then, but no. It occurred to me that Marion had left the bedroom door open. They probably did it because I wasn't there when they started. I was curious and thought about going up the stairs and looking into the hallway leading to my wife's bedroom to see if I could see something. Although the thought was tempting, I decided to go downstairs, take a shower, and go to bed. I seriously need to think about our situation. This clearly won't benefit me in the long run, no matter how much I enjoy it at the moment. This whole live-in arrangement with his wife probably needs to be reconsidered. Not only because she's sleeping with someone and I'm not, but because it's unlikely to work for both of us in the future. How can we move on or have a serious relationship with someone else if we are still living together in the same house? I also know that I still have strong feelings for Marion. Dare I say I still love her. But being here, listening to my wife have great sex while I'm alone, I don't know how Marion dealt with it when I brought other women home. I honestly don't know. On Thursday morning, while I was eating breakfast and drinking coffee in the kitchen before work, I decided to broach the topic of selling a house with Marion again to get her opinion. She soon walked into the kitchen, already dressed for work, but desperately in need of a cup of coffee. "Good morning, Dave. I can't believe it's been 3 weeks already. How do you like your new job? Already got the hang of it?" she asked. "Everything is fine, Muzzy. Kara and the whole team are great. We all get along well," I replied. "Yes, Kara said that she is happy with you, that everyone loves you, and that you know your business," answered Marion. "What, were you checking on me, Mazzy?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Not like that. I just wanted to make sure Kara was happy with you, that you would fit in well with the team. I just want you to be happy and get your career back on track," my wife replied. "Yes, I'm happy. And thank you, by the way. I know you put in the effort to make this work for me. I really appreciate it." "Nonsense, you are still my husband." "Of course, I will do everything I can to help," Marion replied, and I nodded in response. Speaking of husband and wife, this is what I've been thinking about lately. Did we really do the right thing by deciding not to sell the house? Have you ever thought about reconsidering this decision? After all, we both need to somehow move on, I asked, interested in her reaction. "What? I thought we decided not to lose all this money and then pay off the balance of the loan, living in a rented apartment and being left with nothing. Why are you asking this now? Is it because I started dating someone?" Mariana asked with concern in her voice. "No, I'm okay with that. It's just, how can we move on if we're still living together? Beverly broke up with me because I'm still living with you, but what's going to happen with you and Sean? We agreed that no one else would live here, so are you going to continue seeing him a couple times a week? What happens when you want something more? My constant presence here doesn't make things any easier," I explained. "It's not like that between me and Sean. We just have an easy relationship, that's all," she replied. "Is it true? Just sex? Is that all he means to you? Are you saying that you don't have strong feelings for him?" I asked, curiously awaiting her answer. "Don't get me wrong, Dave. I like it, but it's not what you think. We agreed from the very beginning what we wanted from this relationship. We agreed that it wouldn't be serious, it would just be fun for both of us. What if your feelings for him become stronger? You can't have sex with a person several times a week and not build a deeper emotional connection with them over time," I continued. Marion's face showed increasing irritation, and she looked away for a few moments before looking back at me and answering. "God, you can be so annoying sometimes. I never wanted this from the very beginning, you know," said Marion. "Muzzy, I'm not forcing you to sleep with him, but I told you that this will definitely happen as soon as we separate. You can't blame me for something going on with you, I replied defensively. His name is Sean, Dave, but it doesn't matter. I'm saying that I never wanted to part with you, but it was your desire. You couldn't get over your feelings of guilt because you consider yourself to be to blame for the fact that we found ourselves in a difficult financial situation. No matter how much I tried to convince you that everything would be fine, you didn't listen. You were too caught up in your self-pity and took your anger out on me when I tried to support you. I thought that if I gave you a little space, it would help that you would come to your senses sooner or later, because I still loved you and thought that you still loved me too, Marion said, as if releasing long accumulated tension. What did you do? You started bringing home random women to sleep with. Made me listen to you have sex with them night after night when I just wanted my husband back. A year, hell, I waited a whole year before I decided enough was enough. If you are going to sleep with other women, then I will find someone to sleep with. I'm sorry if this offends you, but right now this is what you deserve and what I need, Marion added, finally saying everything that she had no doubt wanted to say for a long time. I stood there, a little stunned, at a loss for words. She was right. In my depressed state, I automatically assumed that she didn't want me anymore, that it was better for us to separate. And here I am wondering if she will want to leave me because she will fall in love with Sean, and all this time she says that she was waiting for me to come to my senses, and we would become husband and wife again. So you're saying you still love me, or did your relationship with Sean change that? I finally asked her. Of course I still love you, I always have. What Sean and I have is just something temporary that works for both of us right now, Marion replied. I ran my hands over my face, wondering how I could have gotten it all wrong this whole time. Why didn't you tell me all this earlier? That you didn't want to break up from the very beginning, I asked. What should I have said? Can you imagine how much it hurt me when you said you wanted to break up? You thought I wanted it as much as you did. Over the previous 6 months, when I tried to approach you, talk to you, all you wanted to do was fight. Even my patience came to a limit, and then I also needed a little space so as not to argue with you every day. That's why I agreed to the separation. I hoped that with time and space you would overcome your depression, and then we could be together again, Marion replied. I shook my head. We should have discussed this much earlier. But then again, it's only been the last 6 months that I seem to have gotten over my depression, and by that time I was already sleeping with other women. In fact, I think it was this relationship that helped me overcome depression and regain my confidence. So what now? I asked. What do you mean, what now? You just asked me if we should sell the house so we can go our separate ways. I never wanted to part with you. The decision is yours. It was always behind you, answered Marion. What about Sean? I asked. The real question is, what's wrong with you? Do you still love me? Do you still want to be with me so that we can become husband and wife again? Answered Marion. I stood there, confused, like a deer caught in headlights, not knowing what to say. Finally, after thinking for a while, I answered, Yeah, I think I still have feelings for you, Muzzy. It's just so unexpected. I thought you were falling in love with Sean and maybe wanted to live with him, but instead you asked if I wanted us to get back together as husband and wife. Do I want this? Do I want us to be together again? I think yes. I just didn't know it was even possible for us, I said. Well, now you know. So what do we do next? Are you ready to try again, Dave? Asked Marion. I need a little time to process all this, Muzzy. You've completely confused me. And then, I don't want to let you down again. Just give me some time, okay? I don't want to screw it up again, I replied. Okay, but then tell me, what about Sean? I need to know your intentions so I can tell him I don't want to date him anymore, my wife asked. Listen, until I sort out my feelings, let's leave everything as it is. We get along so well now, and there's no reason why you can't continue dating him for now. After everything I put you through, at least I owe you this, I replied. But Dave, what are we talking about? Days, weeks, months? When can you give me an answer? Any idea whether you want to be my husband again? She asked. A couple of weeks, I hope. Okay, I can wait. But promise me you'll tell me as soon as you know what you want. Do you swear? I'll tell you, I promise, I replied. After work, we both returned home, where I quickly showered and headed to the bar to start my night shift. It had been a strange day, to say the least, from my conversation with Marion in the morning to Rachel teasingly asking me during our lunch whether I liked watching my wife have sex with Sean. Rachel and I get along well and have the same playful sense of humor. What she said was meant to tease me, and I took it that way, but the subtext was still there. My coworkers thought it was okay for me to have my wife date a handsome black man, and maybe I even enjoyed seeing her with him. I would never tell Rachel or any of my co-workers that I liked the way my wife and Sean had sex. My ego couldn't stand the consequences of this, those condescending glances that they would probably give me, knowing that their suspicions were correct. No, screw that. And I also didn't mention that Marion and I might be getting back together soon. Until that happened, I didn't want to say anything. Adding even more weirdness to the day, of course, my night shift at the bar meant that I had to work alongside Beverly again, knowing now that she had just moved on with another guy after breaking up with me not too long ago. And to end this strange day, the little sparkle Tasha unexpectedly returned to the bar. The same woman I enjoyed sex with for several months at the end of last year. All of this is happening while I'm trying to figure out if I want to be with my wife, Marion, again. Not just living together, but being husband and wife again. When Tasha made it clear to me that I could be with her later that night, I stopped for a moment, thinking, what do I really want? Do I want my wife back? What about her and Sean? How do I really feel about all of this? I haven't yet had time to think it all through properly, that is, really think it through. I decided not to tempt fate, so I refused Tasha for the first time, citing fatigue. On Friday, after working at the office, I went home alone. Marion went to a bar in the city center with her colleagues for a couple of drinks, and maybe later they would go dancing if they had drunk enough. I hurried home to shower and change before starting my shift at the bar. Of course, Tasha showed up again later that night and made it clear that she wanted to spend time with me after work. I wasn't sure what to do. I clearly haven't decided what I want in a relationship with Marion yet, but it's also been a while since I last had sex. All I knew was that right now Tasha was exactly what I needed. It was a little awkward sitting in the kitchen late on Saturday morning when Marion joined me in making lunch. She usually greeted me with a cheerful tone, but this morning that was not the case. She told me practically nothing. Maybe she's angry or at least annoyed that I brought Tasha home early in the morning, and we spent an hour having sex before she showered and left. But we agreed to continue living as before, and for me it was normal, I guess. Or maybe she's worried that last night might be an indicator of whether I want to be with her again. I don't know. But it was never about that. I just needed sexual release, just like she and Sean did. We both have needs that we are not yet ready to satisfy each other. Saturday night, I was glad Tasha didn't show up at the bar again. I guess I didn't have the energy for a repeat. On Sunday, I did some housework and then got ready to head over to Gary's for a beer. When I left the house, Sean was just parking in our driveway. I said goodbye to him. It felt a little weird to shake hands with someone who was about to have sex with my wife. I don't think Marion would ever do the same to Tasha. I had a nice Sunday evening drinking quite a few beers with Gary and Sonia. By 10 p.m., Sonia made it clear that she wanted me to leave so she could spend time alone with her husband. As I walked home through the streets, I wondered if Sean was still home and if he was having sex with Marion again. After a few beers, I was a little drunk, which is rare for me as I usually try to avoid it. When I got home, I checked the living room and kitchen, and they weren't there, so I quickly drank a glass of water. No, they were definitely upstairs. Why would Marion ever want me sexually again after she had him? Will she always think about him when we have sex again? Will she secretly compare my sexual stamina to his and find me lacking in every way? All these thoughts flooded into my head. But then the worst happened. My wife caught me while I was enjoying watching myself having sex with another man. What the hell have I done? To be continued. Subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so you don't miss the next part of this story. She will be there very soon. The link to the sequel will be in the description of this video below. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next